Okay, so we're recording and it's time to begin. So I'm going to change the slide now. And our session is officially beginning. Welcome, everybody. Should you have any questions or comments or thoughts as we progress, please feel free to type them in our chat window. Joe and some of the other authors that are online right now will monitor the chat window and someone will respond to you. Unfortunately, I'm sorry about this. The first session is going to be a lot of talk by me. But this technology that we're using has lots of cool features that will allow you to be interactive and participate. And in future sessions, we're going to be exploring that technology so that everyone can be engaged as possible. This today is going to be a brief overview of the Introduction to Algebra program. I'm wondering, could you give me a happy face, which is the icon just below the names on the left-hand side of your screen? Give me a happy face if this is your first real orientation to the program. Bruce, Micah, Libby. Okay, Mike, can you write in the chat room, in the chat window, what your involvement prior to today is, just so that we know. I like to know who I'm speaking to. As I said, this will be a brief overview, and should you have any questions, you can contact us at any time during the year. The website is here. We'll be giving you emails. We are a small group at UCLA. Helen, who is online today, Cynthia is online, are both authors, and someone will get back to you rather quickly if you have any questions about the program. Just a little bit about the Introduction to Algebra program that you are going to learn about today. This program has been adopted by California for students who are struggling to prepare for algebra. Your students will thoroughly study all of the algebra readiness standards identified in Appendix E of the California Framework, and I hope that you will be glad to know that users of the program consistently have reported to us that their students who have traditionally struggled with math and faithfully complete this program do seem to be ready for algebra. We've even had some reports that students who previously struggled in math were outperforming their peers who did not use the program, which is very exciting to us because the end game here is really that we want the students to be successful in algebra, and this program seems to be doing the job. Another important fact, if you will, about the program is that the program was designed so that the students will study most of the standards on the general math standards test and on Casey. The general math standards test is the most appropriate test for your students to take, and we are getting really nice results. The CST scores just came out about how students are showing growth on that test. The program's been in place now officially for a year. We had some pilots going before that, and we are finding that students are being successful when the program is being used faithfully and when teachers complete the program. I sound a little fuzzy. Let me turn it up a little bit. Joe, is that any better? Helen, is that any better? No. How about this? Is that any better? No. Others who are online, give me a happy face if you can hear me okay. Okay. Maybe, Helen, it's just your microphone and not mine. Hopefully. Okay. Thanks for letting me know, though. We're going to continue. So components of the program. The basic components are what I'm going to talk about for today. And for the students, the backbone of the program are the student packets. And those are the packets that you see that are, someone is, I don't know who's got control of the arrow, but someone is circling those packets on the picture. These are consumable, and students will complete 34 of them during the school year. These packets are essential, we believe, because we have found that struggling students are more successful when given structured workspace and a manageable amount of work each week. These packets give students a fresh start for success each week, and that seems to be really important to keep them motivated. By the way, some people have asked us if they could just reproduce the packets themselves and not order them. The answer to that, of course, is no, because they are copyrighted. But I do want to tell you that we have had instances in a few cases where teachers ran out and photocopied on a limited basis until their new packets arrived. What's really interesting about that little case study experiment that has been going on here and there is that the teachers consistently have reported that the students with photocopies did not do as well as their students who had packets. There's something about this packet that's motivational and appealing to the students, and they really are essential to the program, and I think you're going to find that as the students work through them. Another essential, well, it's non-essential but highly recommended component to the program is the student handbook, and that's pictured here on the right side of your screen. The student handbook is non-consumable, and it is a reference book that includes the student glossary with explanations and examples. Teachers have found it to be a really useful tool for their students, for parents, for tutors, and many teachers actually really like looking at it to get some ideas about how to teach the program in really simple language. You should have received one of these in your teacher guide pack so that you have one for reference. We do recommend that you purchase at least a half a class set so that you have them available for your students and parents and tutors as needed. Can you change the slide, please, for me? And now we are on to the teacher component. So there are many teacher components, but in this presentation, I just want to focus on the most essential components in the program. For the teacher, this will be the teacher guide and the teacher resource finder. A CD-ROM of the teacher resource finder should have come in your teacher guide pack. And the information on that CD is also available for purchase in notebook form, so you can get a hard copy of it. Although the answers are in the teacher guide, and I'm going to show you where that is as we move along, we strongly recommend that you purchase student answer keys, on the recommended part, because the answers are written right on the student pages, and I think you'll find it easier to use this in class than referring to the student answers that are in the back of the teacher guide. Okay, now I have a question for you. You can put it in the chat window. Let's see how astute you are. Why do you think that we chose blue and gold for the colors of our program? I'll give you a moment to put it in the chat window. Anyone have a clue? Bruce, you silly school colors, give Meg a gold star for that one. And by the way, hi Meg, I don't think I said hi to you before. You are right, they are the school colors. They are blue and gold. And you will find that the program has been color-coded. Everything that relates to the first semester is blue. So if you have a teacher guide in front of you, you'll notice that the cover is blue for the first semester. Everything for the second semester is gold. And if a component is something that is used for both semesters, like that CD-ROM there, you'll see that it is blue and gold. So that will help you to not only understand the color scheme, but also remember that this is the UCLA program. Okay, next slide. I'll make the change here. Okay, give me a happy face if you happen to have this document, the lesson cluster map, the 4-page pullout in front of you. How many of you have that in front of you? Give me a happy face if you do. Okay. How many of you, we're just going over this. Oh. How many of you have a teacher guide in front of you? Give me a happy face if you have a teacher guide in front of you. How about a student packet in front of you? Okay, so in the future, if it's possible for you to bring components to our training, then that will be helpful because you'll be able to make notes and see things as they look for real. But I've made slides of all the pages that we're going to look at, and it's absolutely not necessary to have them in front of you. And now that I know that no one has them, I'm going to proceed accordingly. So what you see in front of you here is a portion of what we call the lesson cluster map. When you get your materials, you'll find a 4-page colorful pullout in your teacher resource binder if you bought the binders, or you'll find a file for this on your CD-ROM and you can print it yourself. From this, we can see the emphasis of topics for the program. You can see that rational numbers is a topic that gets quite heavy emphasis because there are so many lessons listed there on rational numbers. You can also see heavy emphasis in symbolic algebra and linear functions. This is appropriate because it is an algebra readiness program. If we look closely at the lesson cluster map, I hope you can see that in week 5, students will begin rational numbers. The very first lesson is fractions, parts, and wholes. They're going to continue their work with linear functions. If you look at the blue section, lesson 5.2 is the fourfold way, growing shapes. And then the third lesson of the week finishes off the whole number cluster, which is factorization. Can you give me a happy face if you can see those 3 lessons on your screen? Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. We're going to move on to the next page. All right, so now on this 4-page pullout that you're going to find in your teacher resource binder or a file of it on your disk, you will see that the second page of that file has our pacing plan. And we think that our pacing plan may be the prettiest pacing plan in California. We hope that you will agree. It's also really simple. To see how the program is sequenced, we need to look at this. The first semester, which is what you see here, focuses primarily on 4th, 5th, and 6th grade standards. But often they are treated with a more mature approach than just how they would have been treated in 4th, 5th, or 6th grade. You'll notice here that the first semester is 16 weeks long, plus week 0, and that it's divided into 4 units, and those 4 units make up the 2 quarters of the semester. I see a note from Libby that she was questioning about not knowing that she had any materials. No problem, Libby. We're going to have all the materials here for you, and then in the future, you'll know where to find things, and things will go more smoothly. But there's no problem at all. I expected that people might not have their materials. No worries. Okay, on to the second semester. The second semester focuses on the 7th grade standards with some beginning algebra standards. One thing that I'm going to say now, and I'll be emphasizing it a few more times in this presentation, it's really important to stay on pace with the program. If you do, your students are going to be prepared for the CST, and they'll get a good start on algebra. This is a program that revisits topics over and over and over again. So don't worry if your students have not mastered a topic when it is introduced. Please, please, please just keep on going. The last 8 weeks of this program really gets into algebra. Up until the last 8 weeks, the students will have studied most of the topics that are on the General Math CST. So you can see that it's really important that you get through those standards so that the students will be prepared. Libby, you have a question? Interesting question. Is there no slope? The answer to that is yes, there is slope, a little bit of slope on the CST. We're talking about the general math CST, not the algebra CST now. And if we go back, let me go back to I think it's actually the next slide here. If we go back to the first semester, you'll notice that, where are we, first semester here, that we have these topics that are in blue, fourfold way. This is actually where we begin to introduce graphing and slope. And so students are going to have some experience with slope prior to the CST. And if you take a look, for example, at week 12, once you get your materials, you'll see that the slope of the line is discussed. But there is sufficient work with slope in this program prior to the CST for students to be able to answer slope questions when it comes up on the general math test. True, but no wife will come expertise since 7th grade, 12 months at a time. I'm not sure I understand what your question is. I think that there is quite a bit of slope work, although we don't talk about it formally until we get to the very end. Okay, we'll talk later. Good idea. Let's move on. Back to semester 1. I wanted to take a look at this one. And let's take a look more closely at week 5. In week 5, you'll see once again that there are 3 lessons. Fractions, parts, and wholes is lesson 1. Lesson 2 is the fourfold way lesson. By the way, fourfold way is our way of describing multiple representations, representing math ideas with pictures, numbers, symbols, and words. And the 3rd lesson is factorization. You'll notice that there are 3 lessons for this week. Each lesson will take 1 day or perhaps 2 days. And that's how the 3 lessons fill up the week. You don't necessarily have to start each week on a Monday. We have many teachers that like to start their week on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, or perhaps a vacation day comes up. Sometimes a week may take 6 days. There is sufficient time to take an extra day now and again if you need to. But we want you to try to do your best to stay on pace, again, because the topics are revisited over and over again. You'll also notice that there's a column called Highlighted Review. In this week, the Highlighted Review topic is whole number division. This topic started in week 2, and students got practice in it in weeks 3 and 4 in their packet. Now we're going to be taking a look at week 5, and this is an identified topic for highlighted review. What this means is that the students will be taking a summative assessment on this topic. At this point, we expect students to demonstrate some competency on whole number division, and that's why they are tested on it. But you'll notice that it actually begins the topic in week 2 with whole number division with remainder, the 2nd lesson. At that point, we would not necessarily expect competency on the topic, again, because they're going to have additional practice in weeks 3 and 4. Generally, the highlighted review topic occurs about 3 to 5 weeks after it's first introduced. In some cases, it's more. In some cases, it's less. But that's kind of as a general rule. Okay, now I have a question for you. Let's see if what I just explained makes sense to you. You'll notice that factorization is a topic that's introduced in week 5. Would you write in the chat window what week you see that is going to occur as a highlighted review topic? Yay, you got it. So notice that it's introduced in week 5, but it doesn't actually come up for highlighted review until week 5. Week 12, the students will have lots of opportunity to practice it before they're given a summative assessment on it. Okay, we're going to take a look now more closely at week 5. And I know you don't have the green packet in front of you, but this is what it looks like. So We're going to walk through some of the pages of that packet right now, and I have them on the screen so that you can take a look at them. This is the cover, and it is green. Each week, the packets are a different color, and the colors cycle through every quarter. So it's easy for you to see whether your students have their packets out and whether they're prepared. You just look out, and if you see a sea of green, you know that they're all on week 5. This next page actually is green in your packet, and you'll find it on the inside cover. This is a vocabulary page where you can use this lesson at any time during the week. Some teachers like to use it at the beginning to preview vocabulary. Sometimes teachers will use it more towards the end as a review. It's there to be used as you see fit, and it probably depends week to week on the vocabulary, how you want to use it. By the way, the definitions for all of the words in the word bank can be found either in the teacher guide, I'll be showing you that in a moment, or in your student handbook. The next page in the student packet is going to be the beginning of the first lesson. Each week there will be 2 concept lessons and 1 skills-based lesson. Every concept lesson starts with a Ready, Set, Go page, and that's what you see here. So the first lesson is fractions, parts, and wholes. You see the Ready part, which gives you a word summary of the lesson. Set gives you bulleted summary of the goals, and Go is a warm-up for the students to do. Some teachers like to actually use the Ready, Set, Go as a vehicle for going over vocabulary. We have included many of the important vocabulary words in this piece so that you can review vocabulary in an appropriate context. Also, I want to call your attention to the headers and footers here. They will help you to know where you are in the packet. In the upper left-hand corner, you'll always find the lesson number and the name of the lesson. In the lower left-hand corner, you'll find the unit number and the title of the unit number. And in the right-hand corner, it will tell you the week number, and it'll say SP and the page number. Bruce, I see that I'm breaking up some. I'm doing the best I can. Okay, so for this particular lesson, after the students have done the Ready, Set, Go, they're going to be doing a puzzle which is located in the Teacher Resource Finder. Again, you will have received the Teacher Resource Finder as a CD-ROM, and you can order it in hard copy if you like. This particular page is the squares puzzle, which is part of the lesson for the week. In the teacher guide, you will be instructed to make copies of this page for groups and to cut them out and put them in envelopes. The students will reassemble the puzzle into 5 different squares. Then they will figure out the fractional values of each square. Notice that the N, which is in the lower right-hand corner, would be 1/2 of that square once all the pieces are apart, and that's the kind of work that the students will be doing. There aren't very many reproducibles for lessons in our program, but in this case, putting the puzzle into the student pages would have spoiled the puzzle, and so that's why it's a reproducible. Okay, back to your student packet. So the next page in your student packet is going to be a page that looks like this. Once the students complete that puzzle, then they will complete this page in the student packet with their group. For example, they will write 1/2 where it says the letter N on the page. Many of the lessons that we have in our program are structured for work in pairs or work in groups because we want the students to have an opportunity to talk to each other and share ideas. Once the students have finished their puzzle in class, then there will be another squares puzzle in the student packet which is there to be used either for additional practice or for homework. This is a different puzzle with different shapes, and there are some questions here about finding the fractional parts, and then there are some fun questions here about finding the value of multiple letters. For example, actually I can't even read that. What does it say? The word us, so they would add up the value of u plus s and see if they could figure out what the values are, etc. I hope you can read that page. I'm having a little trouble reading it. That ends the first lesson, and it takes about a day. Then if you continue on in your student packet, the next page is going to be the beginning of the second concept lesson, and in this case, it's lesson 5.2, and you know that it's 5.2 because the header says so. The title is The Fourfold Way, Growing Shape, and we are currently on student page 4, I believe, which you can see in the lower right-hand corner. And once again, we have a Ready, Set, Go page. This lesson will continue for several pages, and I believe that this lesson is actually scheduled to take about 2 days, this particular multiple representation lesson. The third lesson of the week is the Skill Builder lesson, and it's set up a little bit differently. You will know that you're starting a Skill Builder lesson because the header will change, and here it says 5.3 factorization. But now the skills pages are just numbered, Skill Builder 1, 2, 3, etc. They have a different layout, and this is just the first page of many in this packet where the students will have skill builders where they are either taught a skill or review previous skills. If you have any questions at this point, if you would type them in the chat window, that would be helpful, and I will monitor them. Libby, do you have a question? Okay, you are going through the booklet page by page, but my experience is the teacher guide suggests a completely different order of lessons and so on. That is true. Hold on, Libby. I'm going to answer that in just a few minutes. By the way, I'm going to fly through these. Here's another example of a skill builder, and on this particular one, you'll see some division problems because that is the highlighted review for the week. And you'll also see some test preparation questions, so the students will get practice with that. And on the inside back cover, there's a knowledge check. This is a useful page. Many teachers like to use this page for review. They also like to use it as a preview to the weekly quiz. The questions here are very similar to the weekly quiz, and the students appreciate having some practice prior to the quiz. The back page of the packet is the homeschool connection. And you'll notice here that there are a few questions and a place for parent signature. We don't expect the parent to teach the students the math, but I do think that it's useful for parents to have an opportunity to at least look through the packet, see if students have completed it, and the students have an opportunity to explain to their parents what they're doing during the week. You'll also notice on this page that some of the California standards are listed. We've listed them in code. For example, number sense 3.3.1 means number sense grade 3, standards 3.1. We did this because we felt it would be a little insulting to 8th graders to know that they're doing a 3rd grade standard. And we figured that any kid who could break that code probably doesn't need to be in this class. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the teacher guide, which looks like this. The beginning of week 5 in the teacher guide will also be a green page, which will make it easy for you to find. And on the inside cover of the green page, you'll find the week at a glance and all of the California standards that are covered. Libby asked about the ordering of the lesson, which is not necessarily the suggestion for how you teach the program is not necessarily the sequence of the pages in the packet. We get this question a lot, and I want to explain our thinking here. What we wanted to do when we created these packets is make them in a way so there would be consistency in the structure of the packet. That is, the students would always find vocabulary on the inside front cover. They would always find the skill builders as the third lesson. They would always find the test prep, right at the end before the highlighted review, etc. And so the packets have been put together in the same way week after week after week. However, sometimes the order that you want to use the pages does not coincide with that sequence. For example, if you did the packets completely in order, you would find that you have all your skill pages at the end, and so you don't really have very much homework to assign during the week. So what we've done is we've structured the order of the teaching so that it frees up as much opportunity for you to assign skill builders early in the week as possible. For this week, the lesson starts with 5.1, which was that fraction concept lesson. And there is a homework assignment that goes with it, and that's listed as P3. But then we have you go right to the factorization lesson on day 2. Because once the students have done that factorization lesson, then all of the skill builder pages will be appropriate for homework, which means that the students will be able to finish the packet in a week. If you do the pages in order, it's going to take you probably more than a week to do the packet, or the students are going to have to keep in their possession 2 different packets, one that they're doing for homework, say, week 5, while they're doing week 6. And that's the reason that it's been set up that way. It's not really that much different from a regular textbook where sometimes you go to the end of the chapter and do review as you move along. And I hope that answers your question. Onto the teacher guide. This is the first page of the fraction, parts, and whole lesson. I just want to point out a few features here. Each lesson begins with a lesson summary. If we move on to the next page, this is a planning information page, and it's a really important page. I want to take a moment to point out a few features here. You'll notice that all of the student pages for this packet are listed, and some of them have stars by them. The star by the student page means that it is recommended for an overhead transparency. And if you look on your Teacher Resource Finder disc or in your Teacher Resource Finder, you will find copies of those pages available to make for transparencies or to make available for your smartboard or for document camera. The planning information lists all the materials you need for the week. That squares puzzle is listed as a reproducible. In the Prepare Ahead, you are advised to make copies of the reproducible for each group. We also give you a few management reminders about how to organize your groups. And then each lesson includes some strategies for English learners and special learners. These strategies were written by specialists in the field who looked over our program and gave us some good sound advice about how to create programs that would be appropriate for these special populations. In the teacher guide each week, you're going to, actually for each lesson, there will be a word bank, and this is the word bank that you'll see for this first lesson. Then typically, you'll see some what we call math background boxes or teaching tip boxes. Math background is information that gives you additional insight into the mathematics of the program. Teaching tips is a way for us to remind you of some good teaching strategies that accompany the lesson, and they were written specifically for the lesson. After the math background and teaching tips, then the lesson begins. Each lesson is set up the same way. It's divided into pieces using the headers introduce, explore, summarize, and extend. This particular page, they always begin with a warm-up as well. There's your warm-up. And then when we move to the next page, you'll see here's the introduce and explore. I want to call your attention to the headers and footers on the teacher page. They're similar to the student page. The top will give you the lesson. The bottom tells you the unit and the page number. So the top and the bottom give you that information. The sidebars also give you information about the lesson. They'll give you information about group organization, any math backgrounds or teaching tips that are appropriate, what materials you need, what reproducibles you need, etc. Just a quick question for you, put it in the chat window. What is the group organization that's recommended for the Explore section? I don't see anyone typing that. Groups, there you go. Yes, it's located on the sidebar. Right below where it says Explore, it says Small Groups, and that's how you know to do. Moving on, you'll notice here are some more sections of the lesson, the summarize and the practice and the closure. You'll notice also that within the lesson there are questions in dark bold italic print. These are important questions, and we suggest them because they call attention to the important mathematics that the students are expected to learn. But we are not providing you with a script. Please use these as you see appropriate with your students. Finally, at the end of each lesson, you'll see the solutions to the lesson. All of the solutions are listed here except for the ones that require big graphs and things. And that's just for logistics, that those were not included. Again, the student answer keys will give you all of the answers if you choose to purchase that. Almost done here. I know we're running a tiny bit over, but that's how long it takes to do an overview, I guess. I want to move back to and speak for just a moment about assessment. This is back on that 4-page pullout. And recall that there are 3 lessons in week 5 and the highlighted review topic for summative assessment. At the end of this week, we are recommending that you give a 2-part quiz. The first part will be a formative assessment, and it will cover all the new content for the week. That is, it will cover fraction concepts, some tables and graphs work, and some factorization. The second part will be the summative part, and it will cover the highlighted review topic for the week, and that will be division. You'll find the quizzes in your teacher resource binder. Again, that is the disc that you received or the hard copy notebook if you purchased it. The basic quiz, again, is a 2-part quiz. It's going to be the weekly quiz and the highlighted review quiz part A. And what you see here are 3 pages from the teacher resource binder. Use the information from the weekly quiz to see how students are progressing on topics introduced. But again, remember that they're going to get more practice on these topics, so don't worry if they haven't mastered them yet. If students don't show competency on the highlighted review quiz A, we have another form of the quiz so that you can retest the students if you wish. And that's also in the teacher resource binder in the assessment section. Okay, so let's go now to the reproducible section, and we're going to see our reproducibles and also a little bit more support for reteaching. In the teacher resource binder, you'll find the reproducible for the week, and that squares puzzle that we saw earlier is there. And that is something that you photocopy for the lesson. Also, you'll find each week a highlighted review practice page and a knowledge challenge. Teachers like to use the highlighted review practice to assist with reteaching, or sometimes they like to give it to the students before the quiz so that the students are better prepared for the quiz. When you're reteaching, you will probably find that you have students who have mastered the highlighted review topic already. And so we offer them more challenging problems. The knowledge challenge, again, found in the teacher resource binder, is there for students who have mastered the topic so that they can have some practice with more challenging problems. Getting near the end here, folks. Finally, the program does include some periodic assessments, and they are in multiple choice form. On the 4-page pullout, you'll notice that these are identified in gray in the highlighted review column. You may choose to give periodic assessments every quarter, every trimester, or not at all. It depends on how your school is structured and what you want to do. The periodic assessments only include the topics that have been through a highlighted review cycle for that testing period. So for example, if we take a look at all the highlighted review topics between the quarter 1 assessment and the quarter 2 assessment, beginning with fraction, concepts, and equivalence, those are the topics that you will see on the highlighted review 2 assessment. These assessments are located in the Teacher Resource Finder section in the week where they are expected to be given. So for example, you'll find the trimester 1 assessment in the week 10 section of your assessment finder. So we're done. Thank you for your participation. If you would like to stay online for a continued discussion, please give me a happy face so that I have an idea of who's going to be staying online. You can do that in a moment. The next lesson that we will be doing will be on August 25th, which is a week from today, and it'll be lesson 1.1. You can access this by going online to our website, and please take a look to see what time the lesson is going to start. We're going to talk about it in the office, and if we can swing it to start at 3:45, we will. Finally, if you need any feedback, if you have any feedback, we would love to hear from you. If you need verification of attendance for your school district, please email me, and I'll be happy to email you back indicating that you attended. And you can provide that email to your principal or to your school district. And finally, I want you to remember, this is one of my favorite little quotes, teaching is a lifetime of community service, and we do it for our kids. I know that you're all starting a new school year, not necessarily great pay, all kinds of challenge, but we are doing it for the kids. Thank you very much for your attention, and this is Shelley saying bye-bye.